Firefly universe, but is taking part in the Angel universe, the Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles. Please welcome the beautiful Summer Glau. So why don't we start with when you left? I was thinking there. When you first stopped dancing and you decided to pursue acting, did you have any idea that most of the characters you were going to play were going to be unstoppable physically or mentally deranged? Didn't the programmer on Dollhouse seem a little bit odd to you? We were the alternate programmer on Dollhouse, and she was a little bit, shall we say, psychotic.
I thought she was just a nice girl.
Now we know. Did you have a preference, though, when you set out to be an actor? Did you want to be the queen of sci-fi?
No, I really wanted to do period films.
You're still a shot with them. Which world did you enjoy being a part of more? Firefly or the Terminator?
Excuse me. I can't say it. A lot of people asked me yesterday that same question, and I'm going to take that one to the next life, I think.
Is there something there that you, is there a part of the science fiction universe that you would like to be in that you haven't been in yet? Something that maybe appeals to you?
So many. Well, I'm still waiting for them to bring back Star Trek The Next Generation.
And who do you want to be?
I want to be Counselor Troy's assistant.
New card. Is there, with Joss Whedon directing the Avengers, you have kind of an in the Marvel universe, I would think. Any chance we'll be seeing you there at some point?
I'm still waiting for the phone call, I guess.
Don't you think that call should be made? You're in a Western upcoming, The Legend of Hell's Gate, and Firefly was essentially a Western, and yet people say, hey, the Western genre is dead. It's true, that's what they say. It's crazy, I know. But why do you think it is that the genre struggles so much when people showed such a passion for Firefly?
You mean Westerns?
Westerns in general.
I'm supporting all of them. I go see every single one. It's not dead for me, that's for sure. I love Westerns. But when I was doing Firefly, I kept saying, nobody ever lets me off the ship. I really wanted to ride a horse. And they just wouldn't let me off the ship.
Do you have a favorite Western then? Non-Firefly?
Well, my favorite, actually, one that I watch over and over and over again is the new 310 to Yuma. I thought it was poetry.
Do you have a favorite moment in Firefly? I know you were stuck on the ship a lot, but is there an episode that sticks out for you as, hey, this is exactly what I set out to do and this is what I wanted to do?
I think that the memory that sticks out for me the most would be objects in space, because I got to be on set with jobs every day.
At the end of Serenity, you basically became this Terminator-like person who jumped out and slaughtering all the Reavers. Did you ever get the question, why didn't you guys do that earlier?
I never thought of that before.
Just one of those things. It was just one of those things I kept thinking about as I watched it. Do you ever think to yourself, what happened afterward? I mean, I know a lot of folks like to continue the idea that the Firefly universe lives on. Do you ever think about that iconic character of River and think, you know, what may have happened to her, what her life might have been like? Or do you just let go of the character when you're done with it?
No, I haven't let go. I think that she was going to be captain next season.
Does Jane get to stay around?
Of course.
With shows like Arrested Development getting a second life, a third life, or depending on how you look at it, on Netflix and other things, has there been any talk among the cast of having some kind of Firefly Serenity online reunion?
Online, yeah, absolutely. We always talk about it. I think we all have different versions of what we think the story should do next. But yeah, we all dream about it. I don't think we'll ever give up completely.
Tell us about your first, I was watching an interview with you online, and you were talking about your very first opportunity to audition for Angel as the ballerina. Tell us about that.
So I have to. So embarrassing. I missed the dance audition. It was actually a dance audition first. And I was out of town, and my manager snuck me into the callback. And I wore full-on ballet outfit to my audition, which I didn't realize nobody does. I was brand new. I had barely ever auditioned for anything, and I didn't know that Joss was going to be there. And I walked in, and I just really went for it, and I read for him, and he was quiet after my read, and then he said, "Where have you been?" And he looked down at my resume, and it said "Paint Your Wagon," San Antonio, Texas, which was a lie. I mean, I was in it, but I was a dancer in it, and I had said that I was an actor. And I was like, "Oh, you're doing Paint Your Wagon in Texas? Oh, that's..." And I thought he was laughing at me. I mean, he was, but I left, and I said to myself, "You'll never see him again." And then he had me come back in, and he said, "Can you do it with an accent?" And you didn't pick an accent, just pick an accent. And so I thought, I guess I've always practiced my British accent in private, so I did it, and I did it for him, and then cast me while I was there. And yeah, that was the beginning of my learning experience, learning on the job.
What was your biggest challenge going into the acting world then, since you left dancing, you got into acting, you were before Joss? What kind of challenges did you find yourself facing?
Mostly the talking. That was the biggest challenge, and then also just learning how to read the call sheets. It's very complicated, and learning how to stand on the mark. I remember my first scene ever was with David Moranis, and I stood a foot away from my mark. And Joss came up, and he was really sensitive with me, and he was like, "You know that tape, that's where you can stand on it." Okay. David was really sweet.
You got to play yourself in The Big Bang Theory. It wasn't. Well, first of all, then, how did it differ from you? If you were sitting on the train and you had those four fantastic geniuses, okay, nerds, sitting at the table there, what would the Summer Glau reaction have been initially?
I think they were trying to make me seem cooler than I was. I was trying to act cool, but that's really not. I'm really not like that. And I think they were trying to make me funny. A funnier version of me. So I don't think that I would have reacted quite the way that I did on the show. But it took a lot of takes to get that performance. I know that's hard to believe, but I just kept laughing, and they were so funny. I was very charmed by them all.
What was it like to get that call, though? Because, as I mentioned before, I mean, this basically shows that you're an icon of that kind of film. I mean, they're not calling on anybody else; they're calling on you, Summer Glau. You're the recognizable dream of these guys. What was that like?
Well, I was shooting Terminator, and we shared a lot of the same streets. We both worked on Warner Brothers lot, and so Josh Friedman, the creator of Terminator, he came with me for my first read through, and it was like, Daddy taking his little girl to the first day of class, and he watched me try to fit in with all the the comic actors, the comedians, and they sort of like went to the other show for the day, and I was very nervous. From my perspective, I felt that the comedians were actually more serious on set than the dramatic actors. I don't know if that's, it's very precise, the timing and the way that they articulate all their lines and set up the scenes is very precise, whereas when you're doing drama, you can be a little bit more creative in the moment. So I learned a lot, and I was very nervous, and the guys were super sweet, and I walked away with a lot of respect for them.
What did you try and think of when you were playing the part of River, and you've obviously been through such a trauma? Was there any background research that you had to do for maybe women who have experienced trauma, or how did you get into that role?
Came pretty naturally, actually. I didn't really do research. I just read the scenes and then pretended that I was her, and that was pretty much the extent of my research.
Okay, then a follow-up. What was your childhood like?
It's wonderful. It was just, since I was a little girl, I guess people would say I was a little bit different. So, yeah. Again, I don't think she's really that. I didn't see her as being different. I just played the scenes, I guess.
Which cast member did you get along with the most? I mean, you guys are all pretty close, I take it, or maybe not.
No, we're all very close. I would say that I absolutely still am in love with Sean Marr, and he was so good to me, and I was incredibly attached to him, and I felt like I did my best work when I was with him. So I would say that, as an actress, I was closest to him, and then in general, I was just sort of like a little sister. I think that it took a lot of patience to deal with me in the beginning, probably because I just didn't know what I was doing at all. And everybody was very patient with me and very encouraging, and it was a safe place for me to make a lot of mistakes, and I did. And I felt close to everybody, and I do have to give a lot of credit to Nathan that he really set the mood for us as a group. He has so much humility, and he really has fun on set every day, never jaded, never tired of being there, never taking it for granted, being a wonderful role model on set.
And when you're considering upcoming roles, do you look for a genre, or are you just anything goes?
No, I don't really see genre. I know that people think that I specifically choose to do sci-fi, and I love science fiction. My mother read science fiction to us when we were growing up, and it really shaped my imagination quite a bit when I was a kid, but I just choose the roles based on the character.
Do you have a favorite science fiction work that your mom read to you?
I love Madeline L'Engle growing up, and C.S. Lewis. We read all of those, and I feel like they really helped me think outside the box and live in my own dream world, and as an actress, I think it's helped me.
And what was the set of Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles like in comparison to Firefly?
The set, did you say?
Yeah, just the work and the crew.
Well, one thing that I really loved about Terminator was that I didn't have to do any kung fu. I just got to break things all the time. And I got to, it was definitely a different style of fighting, and a very different character. I felt that when I first of all, I didn't want to go on the audition for Terminator. I was on the phone with my mom, and she yelled at me and said, "You're an actress and you need to go to that audition." So I went to the audition and ended up getting cast and not really knowing. I had never seen Terminator before. And I had an idea of what I thought it was like, because Arnold is, just an iconic character from film in general. So I had an idea of what I thought it was like, and I wondered how am I going to make Cameron relatable? And River, I felt she was very, very vulnerable naturally, just herself, and I felt that it might be difficult for Cameron to be relatable. But then in the end, you know, I think I figured it out with a lot of help from Josh and from the writers of that show. So it was different in that way, but I would say that I was on that show longer than I was on Firefly, so we did get very close as well. It was just the way that I approached the character was very different.
Tell us about the Knights of Badassdom.
LARPing is dangerous. We had a great time. It was like summer camp. We shot very close to Seattle. We were in Spokane, and I loved it there. We shot nights we actually shot at night for 6 weeks, and it was an amazing experience. Again, I learned so much from the cast. I actually just, when I heard Steve Zahn was in it, I just said yes, and I've always loved him, and I really wanted to work with him. And of course, Peter Dinklage is in it, and Danny Pudi, and Jimmy Simpson, and Ryan Quanten, and it was really, really fun. But LARPing is no joke. And you just cannot mess around. You have to know the rules, and you cannot show any fear, and I don't know if I could ever do it again if I just went out and tried to do it in the forest with real LARPers.
What is your character? I was sitting with a group of folks watching a movie, and the preview came on, and at the end, the people next to me said, "What the hell is that?" And they said, "Is that a comedy or a horror film?" And I said, "I think it's both."
You can't categorize it. It is what it is. It is both. It is scary, and it is funny, and it is sad, and it's everything. I don't think that we would categorize it as a horror film. I would say more of an action fantasy.
Are you the heroine? Are you the save the day kind of gal?
I am. I play Gwen, which is the closest I've ever gotten to do a period film.
There's still a lot of hope. Tell us what working with Adam Baldwin was like specifically, since he's going to be here later today. I wanted to get your take on the guy. He's like Daddy. He's on set. You know, he's a father in real life, and I was really close to his kids when we were shooting Firefly, and always go to him for advice. And I think because he's been acting his whole life, he would always come to me and say, you know, it's not always going to be like this. And he knew, I didn't know, but he knew that what we had was something really special. And you know what I've found from now that I've been working as an actress for 10 years, I've seen that the people that are the best actors and that have been through everything, they really know how to appreciate when something's good, and they know how to make it fun every day. They aren't jaded. They don't take it for granted. They don't have an attitude. They love the work, and they make it fun every day. And that's honestly how he is. What's been your favorite experience with the fans so far? I mean, it's going from dancing to Firefly with such a rabid fan base. Had to be kind of surreal. So is there a specific fan moment that you remember as, wow, I can't believe this person's a fan, or anything of that kind?
Well, there have been countless moments where I've just been overwhelmed with the gratitude of this experience. And I remember when I first finished Firefly, Joss tried to explain to me what this was going to be like. And of course I had no idea, but it was very exciting for me because I got my passport to come to a convention in England. I had never been overseas and I didn't have a passport. And it was more overwhelming and more special than I could have imagined. And the love and the support that I felt from this family, I don't know how to quite describe it, but people that are devoted to Joss and devoted to this genre and who have supported me over the years, I just can't say thank you enough. It's really hard to describe unless you're in it. You know what I mean?
Probably seemed like you were in a period piece there.
It did.
Those exact scenes.
Yeah, it did. It was really exciting for me. And getting to travel everywhere I went was the first trip to Europe, and my first tour in Europe was for Serenity. So I was eternally grateful.
What role have you found the most challenging so far?
Well, I think that in the beginning Terminator was, just because I really, it took me a while to decide how I was going to approach the character, and I know for some people that watched the show, there was a shift from the pilot to the series, you know, how we decided to play it. So that was challenging, just because, you know, she is a robot, and you know, she was supposed to be the most human model so far in the history of the story, and so it was a fine line. And everyone that's devoted to the story and already loved Terminator had a specific idea about what Terminator is, and I wanted to be very respectful of that, but also wanted to do something, you know, unique. So that was probably the most complicated for me. I'm not like, well, some people might say I'm like Cameron in some ways, but it was very different for me.
We've got a couple of microphones up here, and I want to open it up to audience questions real quick. Microphones on each side. So if you've got a question for Summer, be ready for that. Is there an actor or actress that you've really been dying to work with that you haven't had the chance to do so yet?
I would say my favorite actress is Kate Blanchett. Yes.
Kate Blanchett.
I think I could work with her. I think that was just fun, and I love Meryl Streep.
Is there a specific role that Blanchett's been in where you think, you know, that's the iconic moment?
Everything. Every time she takes out a role and close to me about Meryl Streep, I just cannot believe the brilliance that they bring to every role, and how much they can disappear into a character. That's, I think, the ideal for any actress.
Do you have a project lined up for after? I know Knights of Bad Aston is wrapped up. Do you have a project lined up, ready to go?
Well, I'm going back to Alphas. And I'm waiting to hear about my pilot for TNT to see if that gets picked up.
Nice. Let's go to this microphone first.